Welcome to Wednesday Bible Study and the Jesus Encounter series. Tonight we're in week 11. Can you believe it? We've only got one more to go in this series. But tonight we've got blind Bartimaeus, the man with the shriveled hand, and the Bethesda Paralytic. This is the third and final week of our triple trilogy. That's right. We've had three encounters, and tonight we have three more encounters. But let me just give you some famous quotes out of the triple trilogies that we've already had. In week 9, they came to Jesus with faith. Listen to the faith of these three. The centurion said to Jesus, "Say the word, and my servant will be healed." The leper said to Jesus, he said, "If you will, you can make me whole." And the royal official said, "Lord, come down before my servant dies." He believed if Jesus would come down, that his servant wouldn't die. In week 10, they came to Jesus for somebody else. The Canaanite woman came for her daughter, and she said, "Yes, Lord, but the dogs eat of the crumbs that fall from the master's table." The deaf man, his friends brought him to Jesus, and they asked Jesus to put your hands on him. And then the demonized boy was brought to Jesus by his father that said, "If you can do anything, have compassion on us." Tonight in week 11, we get three famous Jesus quotes. Let me give them to you. To blind Bartimaeus, Jesus said, "Your faith has saved you." To the man with the shriveled hand, he gives the man an impossible command. He tells the man that can't stretch out his hand to stretch out your hand. An impossible command. And then to the Bethesda Paralytic, Jesus asks the most obvious question: do you want to get well? So famous quotes from Jesus. We're going to see all three of those tonight. Jesus encounters blind Bartimaeus is brought to us by the three synoptic gospels. You know what they are: Matthew, Mark, and Luke. Again, Mark gives us the most detailed account, and so he's going to be our primary text tonight. After Jesus heals Bartimaeus of his blindness, Bartimaeus immediately begins to follow Jesus. What else is he going to do? He's been a blind man for many years, sitting by the side of the road. That's his life. And now Jesus has changed his life, so he immediately that day begins to follow Jesus. But his following of Jesus is brief, because Jesus is on his way to Jerusalem for the last time to be crucified for the sins of the world. Jesus encounters the man with the shriveled hand is brought to us again by the three synoptic gospels: Matthew, Mark, Luke. In this encounter, Jesus heals the man on the Sabbath day. This is one of three times that Jesus heals on the Sabbath day. The other two were the man born blind, which we've already covered, and our last encounter tonight, the Bethesda Paralytic. So we have two of the three tonight occur on the Sabbath day. The Sabbath becomes a battleground between mercy and legalism. And the question is not whether the Sabbath laws matter, but what is the Sabbath really for? And Jesus shows that the Sabbath is for restoring life. And so even though it seems that he's breaking their laws, they were man-made laws, even though it seems like he's breaking their laws and they accuse Jesus of breaking their laws, he shows that the Sabbath is for restoring life. And that's what he does in these encounters. And then Jesus encounters the Bethesda Paralytic. He's paralyzed. He's at the pool called Bethesda, so we call him the Bethesda Paralytic. It's brought to us by John, the simple gospel. 90% of the Gospel of John is unique to John. And so this is one of those stories in John that we don't find anywhere else in the Bible. The man is paralyzed. He represents decades of hopelessness. Can you believe he's been lying there for 38 years? These healings on the Sabbath become a theater of conflict between Jesus and the religious leaders, or as John calls them in his book, the Jews. Of course, everybody in the Bible almost is a Jew, but John is using the term the Jews to refer to the religious leaders who did not accept Jesus, which was the majority of them. All right, so that's our 3 encounters tonight. So far in the Jesus Encounter series, we've covered 18 Jesus encounters. Can you believe that? That's right. 18 people have been drastically changed forever by their encounter with Jesus. Each one of these encounters was the highlight of these 18 people's lives. The day they came in contact with Jesus, everything changed. In tonight's encounters, even though the rest of the world overlooks these 3 people, Jesus approaches these men. Instead of them coming to him, he's coming to them. Blind Bartimaeus, the man with the shriveled hand, and the Bethesda Paralytic. 2 of the 3 really couldn't even find Jesus. The blind man, that would have been very difficult for him to find Jesus. And then the paralytic is paralyzed. He can't get up and go to Jesus. So Jesus comes to them. Bartimaeus, the blind man, is ignored by the crowd. He's on the side of the road begging. He's lost in darkness and isolation. The only time he is noticed is when he's making a commotion. And he realizes that Jesus of Nazareth is passing by. And he knows that this may be his only chance. And it was his only chance because, as I said, Jesus is heading to Jerusalem to be crucified. And it is his only chance. And he makes a noise and a commotion. And he cries out to Jesus for mercy. The man with the shriveled hand doesn't make a sound. He's standing in the synagogue. This is the meeting place of the Jews. In each city, there would have been a synagogue. Don't get it confused with the temple. There's one temple in Jerusalem, but each Jewish town would have a synagogue. It's a community center. It's like this room here. It's a multi-use. It's teaching. It's fellowship. They probably had weddings in there. They may have had funerals in there. That's the Jewish synagogue. It's the community center. And so Jesus finds this man, and he's standing silently in the synagogue. But Jesus calls him and puts him in the spotlight. But when Jesus puts him in the spotlight is really on the Pharisees, who are there to catch Jesus healing on the Sabbath day. And what does Jesus do? He does heal the man on the Sabbath day. And then the Bethesda Paralytic, for nearly 40 years, the Bible tells us 38 years, he's been helpless, he's been lying by the pool. He's convinced in his mind that the only way he can ever be healed is to get in the water first when the water starts to bubble or is churning. And Jesus comes and shows him that it doesn't have to happen the way that you think it's going to happen. Jesus brings a new method of healing to this man. But not only is he trapped in his body, he's trapped in his mind. And when Jesus asked him the most obvious question, he's been there 38 years to get in the water. What does Jesus say? Do you want to get well? And he can't even answer that question. All he can say is, I can't because. And he's standing face to face with the Son of God, who is the one that can help him. But his mind is preventing him from getting out of his situation. But you know what? In this case, even though it seems like he has no faith, and it seems like he has no understanding of who Jesus is, Jesus heals him anyway. He doesn't think it can happen. He doesn't believe it can happen. He thinks it can only happen if he gets in the water. But Jesus shows him it doesn't have to be the way that you think it has to be. Jesus has alternate methods. So Jesus sees every one of these men, each of these 3, and he stops for these broken people to save them out of their impossible situations. They're all at a dead end. They have no other hope for their maladies. So although each of these men's conditions are different, Jesus meets them, Jesus finds them, Jesus saves them. And it all goes back to this, our theme. The Son of Man has come to seek and to save the lost. And we see three beautiful examples of that in our lesson tonight.